are you good to go?
Yeah, I'm ready whenever.
That's it. I will throw us live and then we'll give you a short introduction and then you can just tell when to start the time.
Alrighty.
Oh, I had the audio on already. Hello everyone! Welcome back. We're now gonna have Earthlock ran by Professor Palmer. Away.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a countdown because we have a little bit of time. The game takes a little over 3 hours. We'll cover some stuff then. So if you're ready on the timer, I'll start the countdown.
Yep. Go ahead.
In 3, 2, 1, go. So this is Earthlock. It is an indie RPG developed by a developing company called Snow Castle. They're good people. They had a lot to do with the speedrun. They contributed tips and all kinds of different things that took a lot of time off of the overall run and what it used to be. My first run was like 7 hours, and now it's all the way down to 3. They had a lot to do with a lot of really cool stuff. So definitely, absolutely check them out. Check the game out too. I mean, it's a great game, and hopefully I'll be able to convince you of that as we go through here. So first off, you're gonna notice is a pretty standard turn-based RPG as far as like combat is concerned. And they managed to modernize it quite a bit, and they did a good job doing so, in my opinion. You can hit R2 to make battles be in double time, which reduces the time that animations take, all kinds of stuff like that. So for speedrunning, it's excellent. And you know, casually, how many times have you played an RPG and thought, oh man, this one fight, having to sit through this same summoning animation or what have you is taking forever. This is a really, really good way to remedy it for the people who choose to. It's not forced. It's completely optional. And I'm a really big fan of it. On top of the increased battle speed, there's also instant text and text speed. So you can turn the text speed all the way up and have the text display instantly. And you can just mash through stuff super quickly. And it's pretty nice as far as speedrunning is concerned. I feel like there's a lot of things that were almost unintentionally done with speedrunning in mind. It's really helpful. When I first started routing the game, I was kind of drawn to just how much of the game lends itself to speedrunning and such. But I'll talk a little bit about the story right quick, and then we'll get into some more of the details. So right now in the story, we are Ive and her partner, the dog Taika. You'll be seeing and hearing a lot from him later on. But Ive is a student at this flight academy for the military in Suvia, and she is finally getting her flight clearance. She's passed everything. She's succeeded in her classes, and her father, who is the captain, the leader of everything, he says, "You're still not ready. You can't go out." So she's really upset with him behind his back. She trades her flight permission slip essentially with one of her friends, and grabs her stuff and hops on a plane without the approval to do so. And you'll be seeing a little bit more from her later. But now we're going to switch to the main character of the game. His name is Eamon, and this is your Uncle Benjo, the hammerhead looking guy here. Now Eamon is a scavenger along with his uncle, and they basically, in this era of time, scavenge ruins and things like that to find things that they can sell to make money, and that's kind of their backstory. But the reason that there are so many ruins and stuff like that everywhere is actually because a long time ago there was these very, very strong ancient beings, essentially, and they had a great war, and the result of that war with each other, the destruction and the demise and all that kind of stuff that went down, is now that the Earth is locked in place, hence the name Earthlock. The Earth is stuck. It doesn't spin anymore. So half of the world is exposed to like immense heat, and the other half of the world is exposed to really, really cold. So you'll see a lot of deserts, a lot of desert themes, that kind of architecture and that kind of colors and whatnot. And then on the other side, you'll see a lot of frozen, tundra-y kind of things. So they did it's an interesting take. The backstory and the plot to this game is actually quite unique. Actually, Snow Castle released Earthlock Festival of Magic. Oh, come on now. In 2016, and in 2016, when the game came out, they took some reviews into account. They saw what people were saying, the people who were playing it in response to that on Steam and what have you. And a couple years later, or I guess in that period of time, they decided that before they moved on to their next project, which is supposedly Earthlock 2, I believe they want this game to be a trilogy, which would be amazing, but they said before we do anything else, we need to make the game that we already have that much better. So they spent a lot of time, a lot of resources in cleaning up the game, making it better. The UI, the story, fights have been moved around. They added so many quality of life changes, as well as like it just looks visually a lot better. A lot of the textures that you see on the ground weren't here. So they did a ton with it. They went back and they made what they had better, which I really respect. And the result is hugely noticeable. If you played Festival of Magic, as opposed to this one, which is just branded as Earthlock, it's a big difference. It's a big step up. They did an amazing job with the remaster, and actually, if you buy Earthlock on Steam, I believe you still get Festival of Magic as well, and you can try them both out. But this is definitely the better version. It's also the faster version, and that's part of the reason why we're running it. You can get this game on PS4, Switch, Xbox, and Steam. It's everywhere. So if you like it, definitely check it out. But currently, we're doing a little puzzle. A lot of the dungeons in this game have these types of puzzles. They're usually pretty quick, not overly complicated. It's just enough for you to have to think about them, but not so much that you get bored or you feel like it's so repetitive and redundant that it irritates you, which I like, because I'm terrible at puzzles. I really don't enjoy puzzles, but this is just enough puzzle for me to enjoy without it being a little frustrating. And right away, we're going to enter the first boss in the game. So this guy, his name is Temple Guardian. He's a pushover. Your Uncle Benjo, this is the only time you're going to have him. You'll actually lose him as soon as this fight is over. And that's fine. He's not great. He actually uses the same weapons as Eamon. Oops. And as a result, he uses the same ammunition. He pulls from the same ammunition pool. So we're going to actually be kind of conscientious about how much ammo we use in this fight. Okay, cool. Oof. That was a struggle of a fight, but that's okay. Usually the fight's way quicker. We get fire to proc on one of our fire spuds, but we didn't. No big deal. So we move on. That's him, and this is the artifact that they uncover. And this is kind of where all the story hinges. Like, it all is focused on this artifact they find here. So this artifact, it turns out, has an immense amount of power, has a lot of ties to the historical race of people that were the cause of the Earth being locked into place. And these two guys, they don't even realize it, right? They're just scavenging, finding something they can sell to make a quick buck, and that's how they make their living. But soon, we're going to try to sell it. We're going to meet a new character who's going to tell us, hey, you don't realize how much that's worth. Let us take it to a place in Suvia where they hold artifacts and historical items and things like that. And we can pay you. They'll pay you what it's worth. Like, they'll appreciate it. They're the right people to buy this kind of thing. And at the same time, those bandits that you just saw as we exited the temple, they want it as well for their own reasons. And they have been hired by somebody to go and capture it. So that's what their plan is. So there's a lot of people working together, and it all is focused around this artifact that we find in the temple. Little side quest right there. We just got to. I mean, it's mandatory. You got to catch bibbies. It's kind of an introduction. There's a lot of stuff you can do on the overworld, on the world map. You can do things with different characters. They all have like their own unique interaction with different objects and whatnot. And that's kind of just an introduction to how that works. And then right away we're going to get another introduction into how the spells and talents and all that kind of stuff work. The talent board in this game is pretty simplified. There's not a whole lot to it. It works on a tile system. However, it does have a lot of really unique properties about it. You unlock certain talents through there, as well as you gain stat attributes. So like when you level, you obviously increase your HP, your MP, things like that. But you can also, every time you level or get a new bond level or what have you, which I'll cover a little bit later, you can earn a tile square, essentially. Basically a spot on that talent board that you can plug a new one of your tiles, and the tiles give attack and speed and defense and all those kinds of things. And And they work a really specific kind of way, and it's fortunate that they do, because in the run we will abuse a couple different things, and the immense power that tiles give have a lot to do with that. We're going to save right here just because I found out in the last marathon I ran that there's like a really tiny % use soft lock here. Nope, we're good. Excellent. So here we are. We're moving along. Basically, we met Nart, that little rabbit pig looking guy. He's called the Hog Bunny, and he is one of the... He basically works for the Historical Artifact Museum, is essentially what the place is. And he's the one that says, hey, take me to Suvia, because I need protection. I'm not a great fighter, and when we get there, I'll point you in the correct direction of people who can buy this for what it's really worth, and it'll be at a safe place where it can't be utilized by anybody who would choose to do evil with it. So that's what we're going to do. But first, we need to meet somebody in the swamp. There's another person who works for the House of the High Owl, which is the historical society, essentially. And Nart needs to pick somebody up while we're there. We need to go meet her. Her name is Olia, and you'll see her in a minute. But you saw me interacting with a couple of plants on the overworld. Nart, the character specifically, can interact with a few different things. There's a plant that gives you a little bit of health. It gives your team HP. And then there's another one that increases your speed when you run. And we're going to be utilizing those speed beans any chance we get, at least early on. Later on, we'll phase them out, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. A couple of key things to note is encounters, and the way that they work is pretty interesting. Oof. You can run straight into enemies, as you saw right there, and take an encounter. Otherwise, whenever something aggroes you, you're going to see in the bottom left-hand corner a circle appear, and the amount of enemies that have aggroed you is going to be in that circle. And there's like a timer, essentially, and when that timer reaches full, like it fills all the way up, you're going to take that fight with that amount of enemies that's listed as the number inside of it. However, you can engage that fight whenever you want on your own by pressing circle, and when you do that, you guarantee that every single one of your party members gets a turn first. And we're going to do a lot of that, mainly because running away in this game is guaranteed and instant. You don't lose anything from it. It's really important. We'll be running away from quite a bit of things, and it's so nice, man. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that appreciate the fact that running away is not a chore in this game. And I know I've played many games that it is an absolute task sometimes. Okay, pretty good jumper. But so far, things are going alright. This is Olia. She's basically a warrior of the House of the High Owl, the same place Nart comes from, and she's here on her own mission. She's currently on a personal, I guess a work-related mission as well, to capture, or to find, rather, some old ancient artifacts and rebuild this old ancient machine that would give them the ability to decipher old historical documents and stuff like that. So she's working her own piece at the same time. Another thing that's worth mentioning is, in battle, each member of your party has 2 stances. Now, each stance gains them access to a limited amount of abilities, and you can only have access to one stance's abilities in whatever that stance is, which is right, but it's important. You can you can use a turn in battle to switch stances, or you can do it, for free or whatever outside of battle. You're gonna see me alternate people's stances a couple different times. Nart has a knife thief style stance and a ranged one. There's another person who has a ranged style one as well, as opposed to a melee. Nart has one that's basically healing and restorative, and the other stance is buffs, and that's a really, really important one. Olia's is actually pretty neat, and we're going to lean on it here a little bit in the beginning of the run. It's a stance that allows you to, in one, you just attack, you got a slashing and piercing attack, and in the other, you go into what's like a taunt stance. And the way that works is you can't attack, but if anything attacks you, you're guaranteed to counterattack. And it's really important because we can actually make a few different bosses hit her, and she'll return damage. And she basically is like a pseudo tank in that respect. So we use that on a boss that's coming up here in a little bit. But right now, we have to deal with a couple of encounters in here. There's going to be 2 fights that we do here. The EXP in this game, because the max level in the game is so low, it's level 20, and they did it on purpose to incentivize like having to get XP, and there's a couple of tournaments later that you can get EXP from easily. And as a result, though, the difficulty curve is immense. From one level to the next, you're going to see like a huge leap in boss difficulty and your character's ability to do damage and stuff like that.
May I cut in real quick here?
Of course, of course.
I forgot to tell you that all your incentives for Earthlock was met. All 3 of them.
Awesome, man. That is good to hear. So we will do the Hollow Knight then at the very end of the run, and we will do and then that means the Princess Ive and the Nart skin as well. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
Carry on.
Perfect. Thank you so much, man. To my point, though, the EXP in this game is so important, and it's routed so tight that every single fight that I take, you're going to see me take a very specific amount of enemies in that fight and do them a very specific way. And the reason that I do that is because when you fight multiple enemies, the EXP you gain is multiplied based on the amount of enemies you're fighting. So from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and going all the way up, the EXP you earn jumps immensely. As such, the difficulty of the fights also does as well, but we'll be strategically taking certain amounts of enemies throughout the entirety. And every single fight I take, I kid you not, is done absolutely. Unless you see me feign death and run away, then it's very important. And EXP can make or break you. A lot of times you'll have a character die in a fight, or your EXP will just be a little bit off, and you have to come up with some on-the-fly ideas for how you're going to earn that back. And depending on where you are in the run, how deep, sometimes you just got to wing it. And as you can see, there's turn order is listed. Oh, the wrong character. Oops. As you can see, turn order is listed on the right side for everybody. And it's a really neat mechanic. I really like it because it gives you a good idea for like what your next best move is really quickly, and you can burn through a lot of these turns like super fast, especially with the increased battle speed. So as long as Nart is up before the end of that fight, we're okay on EXP. We don't need to worry about anything. But there are a couple times 8 is the max amount of enemies you can take in a single fight. There are a few times throughout the game where we'll take 8 enemies and the battles will be a little bit slow or difficult, but we get heaps of EXP. And based on the amount of fights that I take, which are all, like I said, routed in a specific way, we're going to end at a very specific level point that is, as far as I know now, like there's still testing I could do to see just how low we could manage to get away with. But the levels that we end at are going to be very important and done purposefully. So right here we're going to switch Olia to her. We're going to switch Olia to her taunt stance, and we're going to equip some damage tiles on both Nart and Eamon, and we're going to move in to start Varlik Drew. And Varlik Drew is basically the captain of all these pirates that you've seen me fight here. He's a cool guy, but he's a really difficult fight at this level. So what we choose to do is we have Olia utilize her taunt stance, and we can actually really iron this fight out. It's nice. So he's going to go first. Hopefully he attacks Olia. He didn't. That's a shame. We'll do it like this. Excellent. So you're going to see him forcibly attack her, which is ideal. Oh, man. We'll heal you. Usually I use Eamon's ability, but because Nart died in the previous fight, we didn't have all our bond. A bond is something I'll explain here in a moment. Basically, you can see Nart and Eamon, they have a little bar underneath their HP, and that's because they're bonded together at that time. And any character who's bonded has a unique set of properties that they gain depending on who they're bonded with. And once that bar fills all the way up, you have access to either Eamon or Nars or both. And whoever's in that bond connection, they can actually use a special of theirs. But the most important thing is like the actual attributes that you gain from being bonded with specific people. It's really important. Later on, you'll see me organize my party in a very specific manner because we need some of the what would you call this? Like some of the naturals, the talents or what have you that are passive. We need those really badly for some of the later fights in the game. They're pretty rough and they inflict status debuffs and things like that we can be immune to depending on who we have where. Here, this is Plumpet Island, and you're seeing the Frog Boy here. The Frog Boy is he's a lovable character. Everybody in my chat loves him. Our emote is the frog. He's a swell guy, kind of a funny dude. Loves himself some puns. So if you're fans of puns, absolutely don't hold back. Drop them in chat. But he explains to us a few things. The first is how you acquire ammo and medicine in this game. You plant these plants, you wait for them to bloom, you harvest them to get certain resources, and you can craft ammunition, you can craft medicine and things like that out of them. So if you don't have money, you don't want to buy that kind of stuff out of shops, you can actually just spend a little bit of time and grow your own resources, essentially. We're going to do a little bit of it. Not very much, just because it's slow and we actually don't need it for the entirety of the run. Later on, we have like ways to deal with stuff that won't require us to utilize any of it. But there are so many different kinds of plants in this game and all kinds of stuff that you can mix and match and get to work. So a lot of people really, really like that gardening aspect. Now right here, we're basically going to run to a couple different spots on this island where the frog will explain just what every single character's unique role is on the island. Nart is the gardener. Eamon is he can like smith things. Olia can create talents. Ive can like research and read treasure maps. Taika can dig in the sand. Everybody has like a functionality. Later on there's a character named Pat and he can like transcribe old tablets and things like that. So every character, like there's an emphasis in this game that every character has their place and every character has their role, and each one has a little bit of backstory to go with it. Now when they made the upgraded HD remaster, whatever you want to call it, of Earthlock Festival of Magic into Earthlock, they added a lot of that flavor to each of those characters' backstories. Initially you weren't able to craft items and stuff like that. Gardening was there, but not the craftable equipment and such. It's really fun. There's a lot of give and take from the things you can craft. Some of them like increase damage to this but lower damage to this and things like that, and you can really play a lot of different ways as a result. And they're again like things that you can just farm up on the world map and such, so it's not super difficult. It just requires you to spend a little bit of time, which just means you get to play the game a little bit longer, which is not a complaint here. However, today, our goal is going to be to play the game for as little as possible. And so far, we're doing alright. I'm on, I crafted Earthmaster. It's going to be super important later on. We're going to get a spell on one of our characters that will be Earth-based, and it gives an increase to damage. And that's really the only thing we're going to craft out of that talent place the entire run. Frogboy explains barnacles here, which are enemies that give, there's 4 of them in the world, and they give a crazy amount of EXP. They're also rather difficult. All of them except the first are super troublesome. But we'll be killing all of them because they're basically a guaranteed level, if not more in some cases. If you guys hear anybody gritching, my kid is passed out behind me, so she'll probably wake up and throw a couple sleepy words at us. We might as well save. But here we are, we're moving out. Now that we've defeated Varlik Drew and we've rescued the Frog Boy, we can actually begin our journey towards Suvia. We're just basically going to backtrack. We're going to go to Zaber now that we know that Uncle Benjo was kidnapped by those bandits that you saw previously. And Benjo also dropped his gun, which is a pretty decent gun. It has a unique property that that we're going to utilize a little bit. I'm going to switch to Nart so we can eat some plants. We're going to come here. So from that island that you saw me go to, you can warp there at any time from a save stone. You get a full heal. You can access the shops and all that kind of stuff that are available there. And any place that you've touched the save stone at in the past, you can then warp there afterwards. So you're going to see me tag all these save stones. Whether I save or not is irrelevant. I won't warp from them. I just need to touch them so that they're available later on when I need to revisit a couple places. Fast travel being available pretty much right off the bat in the game is super nice as far as speedrunning purposes are concerned. So again, we're just going to grab the plants when we can get them. Sometimes the plants have some weird properties where they don't spawn where they usually do. Occasionally you'll just miss a plant or two. They won't be in the path that they usually are. But we got lucky. All the plants were where they needed to be. Now when you interact with objects, especially in the world map, but in dungeons as well and what have you, you'll go into like this, as the animation is taking place, if you're interacting with it, enemies can still move a couple steps towards you. So sometimes I'm going to choose to not pick up certain things because I know it'll mean a fight. And unless you initiate the fight yourself, you can't guarantee that your team's going to go first. So on top of making it riskier, it also makes it a little bit slower because you got to wait out enemy turns before you can run away. So this is Benjo's gun. Again, we're going to go up here and tap the save stone so that we can warp back there a little bit later on. Zaber, the place we're at right now, it has a really pretty theme. You'll notice a lot of the music in this game is really well done. They put a lot of effort into the OST, which is available for purchase as well as on YouTube if you want to have a listen to some of it. It's really good. The speedrun, we'll be skipping through some areas and not even visiting some others. So you're going to miss out on some pretty dank tracks. If you want to go check those out, I definitely recommend it. But as you can see, we're going to skip every encounter that I don't intentionally want to take. We're going to have to fight a few things just for, like, you got to get things that certain enemies drop. And those are going to be the Amory lanterns, and I'll explain those once we get to the temple. But realistically, you don't take a single random encounter, and you definitely don't take any that, you don't fight any that you don't want to, which is nice. I like that. Every time I try to route a new speed game, and I was the one who routed this initially as well, I try to see just how much you can do with as little as possible. And it was nice to see that this game, well, first of all, I tried to skip every fight in the game. I really undervalued EXP, so when the route was coming together, man, I was dying to everything. Even just encounters, they were murdering me. And over time, I figured out, I did all the math, what fights are the most worthwhile EXP-wise, how long they take, and down to the very last level, I have the EXP mathed out intentionally, and it's super impactful. But as a result, like some fights of 4 take like twice as long as fights of 8, depending on like what the enemies are you're fighting. Like it can be kind of crazy. Had some fancy feet right there. Managed to dodge those encounters. So right down here, we're going to fight an Amory Lantern. Now, Amory drop these colors, and each color can light a pedestal of the corresponding color. So we actually just need to kill the lantern. We can avoid this torch that's floating here. However, if we get stunned, we have to wait for that character's stun to wear off before we can run away from the fight. Oh, nice. Just not going to do it. Cool. So now we just we feign death. We grab the color that we need. We ignore that guy. He's not important to us. You're going to see me pick apart Amories in specific fights throughout the game and then just immediately run. And Amory and the fire djinns or whatever djinn is with them, or usually whatever enemies they're with, give such pitiful amounts of EXP that it's not worth the time it would take to kill them. What's going on, HGH? Pleasure to have you, my guy. Hopefully you're doing well today. But here we are. We're going to kill another Amory. Now, Olia is currently in her warrior stance because nice, because counter stance is not good when enemies don't physically attack you. It requires a physical attack, not a magical, not a ranged, and things like that. So it's super important to know exactly what. Okay, I already wished you luck. I did see you wish me luck. I appreciate that. It's important to know what stance you're in. Sometimes if you go into a boss battle with the wrong stance, that single turn can ruin the whole fight. That's how tight some of the fights in this game get. Because the difficulty and the speed at which everything happens in the end of the game is crazy. So you gotta make sure that you're not losing any turns on crucial people. It can really come back to cost you. You're seeing glance right there. I'm glad that I saw that. So glance is an accuracy based thing. In this game, you can miss, you can glance, and then you can hit for full damage. Now glance is basically like you're not quite missing, you're not quite hitting. It's giving you a little bit of damage as opposed to just making you miss more often than not. Usually what you see more glances on fights where your accuracy is close to the evasion of the enemy, and you're going to see more misses on fights where your accuracy is really low and something's way higher level than you, and their base evasion is much higher. Fortunately, that's a good way of, when I was routing, to be able to see how much I was glancing and missing certain things, to have an idea for like, okay, I'm just too low for this, maybe one more level and things like that. Also, as a kind of a help me out situation, anytime you go into a major boss fight, the party members will have like a short little bit of dialogue right before the fight starts, and it usually consists of something like, we might not be strong enough for this fight. Maybe we should come back later when we're stronger. And that's basically Snowcastle, the developers, telling you, hey, you're gonna get the crap beat out of you. You're too low level. And now, if you were the appropriate level, Ive or whoever will say, I think we can do this. And that gives you a really good idea for like what the developers intended for you to be level-wise. And it took me the longest time to figure that out. I was like, dude, every fight I go into, they tell me like, we can't do this. I'm like, get it together, guys. You're like this big old sorry bunch of losers, dude. Have some bravery. And then I realized, I was like, oh, you know what, dude? It actually has merit to it. It has meaning. Which is neat. I can't say that I've experienced a game that had anything like that was basically telling you, hey, listen, if this doesn't pan out, you probably need to go kill a few more things before you come back. Again, just another short puzzle. And actually, while I was doing this puzzle, I thought of maybe a way to save time in the future. So that's interesting. I always think about like how I could make this puzzle quicker. It's probably the longest puzzle we do in the entire game. And it's not even that long. But the way that you can transfer and move around Amory and things like that, they vary. From certain Amorys will stay in your wristband for until you use them, and some of them wear off after a little bit. Like, you can't have them forever. They have like a timer tied to them. Yeah, Piku, absolutely, man. We got you from here, my friend. Thank you so much for all the help. But I'm gonna just haste Olia because she's the one we need. She does the most damage at this point. She's actually a higher level. Oh, nice, very nice. So all these Amorys actually went pretty well. Sometimes they can stun twice, and your two damage dealers get stunned, and you're just sitting there with Nart. Yeah, the mod's gone, guys. Let the pastas and the memes come out. Now there's a lot of chests that you're gonna see me ignore. A lot of them give really, really great synthesis materials. So if you're gonna play this game casually, I would suggest picking up everything, just doing everything there is to do when it comes to dungeons, when it comes to treasure chests and stuff like that, because there's a lot of stuff, recipes to different ammos and and things that'll help you make talents and talents themselves everywhere. I haven't actually submitted bet on it yet, HGH. That's my apologies, but I pretty much came home and slept. This is my 3rd marathon in 4 days, and I have another one tomorrow night, and then I'll hopefully have a working schedule for a while. But it's always a pleasure. I'm super stoked to be able to show off Earthlock to you guys. Nice. So that fight went really well also. What's going on, Lena? How are you? Thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate you guys. Don't bring logic into this. Yeah, it's my bad. I went immediately to sleep so that I could be up for this run at this hour. Wow, we saved a good amount of time in that section. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So now we're meeting Ive. The parties have finally merged. And in great video game logic, she's injured, so we use a potion on her, right? How many impactful video game deaths could have been resolved had the characters used Phoenix Downs or what have you? So many. So I appreciate that they were realistic about it. Yeah, no, you're good. I will, as soon as I'm done here, I will submit my bet on an emote for you guys to spam. Right now, all we got is the frog, but I do appreciate seeing that in chat, especially during Earthlock runs. Always good to keep that frog strong. So as I mentioned earlier, the fights I take are specific. We're going to take 3 specific mixtures of fights here. We're going to do one of 6, another one of 6, and then one of 7. We're going to save. We're going to warp for a free heal. We're going to harvest a couple more plants so that we can have some healing potions on hand, because these fights, although they're not like crazy difficult, sometimes they do decide to really troll you, especially if you miss a lot and stuff like that. Glance and what have you. It can really make this a process. And every time you gain a new character in your party and you return to Plummet Island, the Frog Boy will basically explain that person's unique ability and what they do. And Ives is this library here. In the library, you can decipher treasure maps, which are exactly what they sound like, places you can go in the game and find buried treasure. Also, anytime you like fight a big boss or something like that, you'll get trophies, and those will also be displayed in the library as well. So it's cool, like you'll see Varlic Drew's hat or whatever in there, and stuff like that. Okay, 6. 6 is alright. Now it's faster to switch between characters than it is to run in most cases. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you just get unlucky based on where the character decides to be moseying about at the time, but most of the time that's how it is. We want her in counter stance. Alright, cool. So now that we have Ive, she is the strongest character we got for sure. We're going to bait these guys over here so that we can take 6. Alright, cool beans. Now this fight is usually... Oh, there you go. Eamon is so bad in this fight because he's just not a great level. He doesn't really have any talents on him yet. So we have to just kind of... He throws pitiful damage out and a couple of potions if needed. But Olia and Ive are by far the most important characters. Because Olia, if she gets attacked, even if somebody is not... and we're going to risk it. Nice. So even if somebody's not taunted and they still attack Olia, she's going to return with a counterattack. So the more things that attack Olia, the better. Because we can force her to taunt stuff and force them to attack her, but anything that does it of its own choosing is obviously a pretty good deal. Now I can actually use Nart's heal in this fight to make things a little easier, and the earlier I do it is probably going to be the better. So we'll go ahead and do it now. In regen, Nart's ability is it puts for 3 turns. Every time you take a turn, you get a little bit of your health back. It's really neat. Oh, come on! It's a really neat functionality. It's not a super, you gotta kind of play smart because you don't get the HP immediately, obviously. And And so it's important to understand just what like your limitations are and stuff like that. But hopefully Eamon doesn't miss here. Word. Oh, that was the wrong target. Feels bad. Nah, because that's not a physical attacking target, we're not going to gain anything from that. Oh, but that guy decided to kill himself, so that's ideal. So as you can see, when you have fast forward on, you just rip through these fights. Animations go so quick. And you can really make quick work out of these fights. We'll use that here. Nah, it doesn't really matter, actually. We're going to go back and heal it anyways. Nice. Okay, cool. So we're going to get a good amount of EXP. Everybody's going to hit level 4, which means we're exactly where we need to be EXP-wise. Now, there are 2 more fights we'll take while we're here. We're going to warp for the free heal, and then we'll warp right back. But there's 2 more fights we're going to take while we're here, and the combination of those should put everybody, will put everybody over 5. We're going to switch to Ive on the world map right here, like on the overworld. And her unique ability on the overworld is tiptoeing in her Jordans. So what she can do is go into like this tiptoe and avoid aggro or detection. And so we'll use that a couple times throughout the run to squeeze past things we don't want to deal with. But anytime you warp to Plummet Island and come back, all the enemies have respawned. So if you are looking to grind, that's a really great way to do it, is especially in that spot right there, those 6 goblins. If you use Olia's shout, you can actually fight. You can actually get some of the enemies from downstairs to aggro you as well, and you can take like 8% fights for max XP increase. So it's a really helpful grinding tactic. You know, naturally you stand by a save point and just warp back and forth to respawn everything. But so here we're going to be on Ive. We're gonna bait these guys with Olia as best we can. We're gonna take 6. That went well. Oh, I forgot to equip talents. I always do. It doesn't matter too much there. We're going to do it again anyways. So here we can't afford to use any bonds on anybody because there is a combination of Ive's bond with Eamon's bond to follow it right up that actually packs a huge punch and allows us to rip through the next fight really quickly. Now one thing that is unfortunate though is anytime those guys that fly land, they use an ability called Goblin's Breath when they're in there on the ground. And so you got to make sure you kill those guys really quickly because Goblin's Breath is a pretty strong AoE. The most important thing here is keeping people alive. One thing that's worth mentioning is you're going to see me prioritize getting rid of enemies as opposed to like, well, you know, I'm losing value if this person does 80 and he's only got 10 health left. I should attack somebody else. Well, in this game, because of how difficult some of the fights are, it's more important to just get rid of enemies and basically have fewer turns that the enemies are going to take. That's priority over everything. Because on top of it being faster... Oh, wow, nice. That was so lucky. On top of it being faster, it's also super risky to keep things up. Like, if you have an opportunity to kill something, you almost always want to do that first. Oh my goodness, this goblin section is disgusting. What do we want to do here as well? Excellent. Oh, I don't know why I did that. It's okay. Cool. That was a brilliant section. We have one more fight, but the next one's over super quickly. Those first 2 are the ones you got to watch out for, and not only did they go quickly, they posed almost 0 risk, so we did a great job of getting lucky there. So here we're going to equip some talents. And we're going to heal everybody. Oh yeah, Nart is amazing. Sorry guys, I guess chat is a little lagged, so I wasn't paying great attention to it. That's my apologies. Nart is great. Nart is a large part of why this run is possible in the way that we do it. and the other is Taika, who is the character we're actually story-wise on our way to get right now. These goblins were hired to capture Taika, so we went and so we're after him basically. Oh, nice. So what you do here is you fire trap, drop, immediately open up with Spud Blast from Eamon. Oh, I didn't equip Benjo's gun. That's why it's not gonna. And as you can see, it just does a stupid amount of damage. They're almost all dead, so now we just clean them up. But Nart, his buffs stack multiplicatively. So they do, the first one does 37%. These are rough estimate numbers. You know, it varies depending on, like, you know, element and all kinds of other things. But, Nart, yeah, so the first one about 37, then it goes to 31%, and 27, 24, 21, 15. But what's important is, because that's the way it works, you're always gaining huge damage every time. Every time that you cast a buff, it's increasing your damage. Ah, that was a poor choice of turn order. Okay. And as you can see, boom, everybody's level 5. Huge amounts of EXP there. We're actually going to equip this. And talents, might as well do that now. I'm doing my talents in a specific order now. Later on, you're really, really loose with how you can do your talents. It doesn't really matter. But I need to unlock certain abilities at certain points. Especially once we get Taika, you cannot afford to screw up the order of which you lay his tiles at all. And yeah, we're doing a pretty good job time-wise and everything. I'm really surprised. Usually that section proves to be a little bit more difficult than it was, so excellent stuff. We're gonna save and we're gonna warp. Get that sweet, sweet heal. Actually, I think I'll go craft a couple more healing potions. This next fight is like probably one of the ugliest in the game, just because we don't have a lot of great resources, and we don't have a lot of great resources. We don't have a lot of great damage. You know, it would just take a really long time to continue to grind. So having a few healing items is definitely ideal. And because it's a marathon, we'll sacrifice a few seconds in order to make sure that we can make it through this next fight. So we'll save. This one is Gob King. Gob King has a really unique quality in which anytime you attack him, he is going to attack you right back. He's nasty. So we choose to not use any physical attacks. So we'll just use ranged attacks, which don't trigger his counter. And we'll put Olia, we'll keep Olia in counter stance, just on the off chance that Gob King does attack her, we get some free damage. Otherwise, she's going to be using items and passing her turn. Nart's going to be healing, and the other two are going to be our main source. Oh, I forgot to do the menu. Oh well. It's alright. So what we're going to lean on here is we're going to hope that we can get some of these DOTs to stick. Ive has Electro Lance, and Eamon has the Fire Spud. So we want... There we go. Sweet. We want Lightning to stick, and we want Fire to stick, because it just does a little bit of extra damage over time. So far so good, even without the menu swap. The reason I like to swap a couple of characters around right here is because Ive and Eamon, when they're bonded, get an increase to... They get an increase to... to range damage, which is obviously pretty ideal in a fight where you're utilizing nothing but ranged attacks. So Gob King will always confuse at this point, and wow, Nart didn't get it. That's so nice. Sometimes Nart gets confused, and he will legit cure or put regen or buff, haste, any of that kind of stuff. The Gob King over here, and it's so annoying. Oh wow! She crit her own teammate. That feels bad. He'll probably confuse again before the fight is over. We just gotta make sure that we are all at a decent enough HP to deal with that. And we should be fine. Nart's coming up on his bond here, which is really, really nice. Nart is continuing to dodge bonds, so that's good. Or it's confused, rather. So now that we have Nart's bond, we can actually use it. Super helpful. Everybody's getting a little bit of HP back over time. Also, one thing that's very important that I always forget about is so that you can see the little yellow squares that are beneath my character's HP bars. Those are called AMRI charges. Each one of your turns, like, it has like a set AMRI value that, like, that's how much it costs to use. And you know, if you use too many, you have to take turns where you don't have any AMRI. Every turn you get an AMRI refreshed. Anytime you want to pass your turn, you can rest, and that gives you an AMRI as soon as you rest. And that's important because it effectively means that you'll have 2 AMRI at the start of your next turn, 2 extra. And you'll see it's not super important now. Later on it is when we have later on it's really important when we have Taika and some people who have some turns that chew up quite a bit of AMRI. Wow, that was even with the poor menuing on my part, that was a great fight. So we need to make sure we swap them as soon as this next fight is over. I don't want to do it now because we have some bond that we've accrued, and I'm going to use it to make this next fight a little easier. Some on-the-fly strats. You guys are seeing it here first. We're going to kill these guys because they got the key, or rather the wagon wheel that we're going to need. We're going to take 5 on purpose, and we're going to kill these like we would kill anything else. Hopefully everybody in chat is doing great tonight. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Anybody out there watching Earthlock, I do appreciate it. I know it might be a weird hour for a lot of you guys, but it's a cool game. It's real chill game. So it's a good way to end your night if that's what you're doing. It's a great stream to fall asleep to, and I'm glad to have you guys here in any capacity. So. We want to get rid of the guy that Olea can't trigger for counters, obviously. I was going to use Bond, but I just don't know how I would at this point. I'm doing now. So Taunt S is pretty sick. It does exactly what it looks like. Everybody's taunted. The only issue with it is you got to be really careful. Because you'll accidentally get Olea killed if 5 things attack her in one turn. Alright, cool. Neat. You should be dead here. Cool beans. So now, before I forget, we're going to actually swap these two. Oops. Give talents to... We need her. We're about to lose Olea for story reasons. So we're going to give her some poo-poo tiles so we can have the good ones. We'll give him energize. Amen needs to have... Oh wait, it doesn't have it yet. That's right. That's why I wait to do that menu till later. Everything makes sense. Wouldn't you know it? But now we got the wheel and we got the elevator shaft. And we're going to continue to progress. So story-wise, when she left after her father told her not to, she crashed the plane that she jacked from her flight academy. And she crashed it into the temple. Well, at the same time, Benjo had just been kidnapped, so the crew thought that maybe they were connected. They show up here, it's just some rando. And they're like, whatever, you can come with us. We're going back to Suvia anyways, where she needs to be. She says, well, my storm dog, Taika, these goblins took him. Can we get him on the way? And they were like, yeah, sure, whatever. Well, it's a good thing they did, because Taika is like, he's the hard carry of this run. And when I say that, I mean that in every sense. Like, he is the reason the run went from 7 hours to 3 hours and 11 minutes. Solely on the back of that monster that he is. He's a cool character. Everybody likes having dogs in their games, right? Dogs are relatable. I don't know anybody who doesn't like dogs. Not anybody that I like. You know what I mean. Excuse me, right here, this character is Adarin. She's basically the leader of the bandits. Imagine like Adarin and her gang are like the Foot Clan from the Ninja Turtles. They're just like mercenaries for hire. Fun fact, in Earthlock Festival of Magic, you actually used to fight Aderin and her own Storm Dog right here. Now, because you just fought Gob King, and you had, and we fight Aderin not too far from now, they removed that fight from the game, which is a good decision because like the difficulty was a little bit too much in my opinion to make it like enjoyable. So yeah, we don't fight Aderin. Thankfully, she just dipsets, basically gives us a few threatening words, and she heads out because the Suvian military is here, presumably looking for Ive, since she disappeared like a goober. And we're going to give Nart. We don't want him to have agility. Who has agility? We're gonna give him might. Oh no, okay, here. We want her to have precision. We'll actually utilize it. The agility a little bit. Doggos are amazing. I agree. I love dogs. I had one dog who lived almost my entire life. I got him when I was really little. And he lived to be 18, 19, something like that. Just a little tiny thing. But it's crazy. He saw so much happen in my life. From graduating high school, getting married, driving, like all those kind of different things. And even like lived through my kid being born for a few years. So, man, dogs really are something else, tell you what. And I'm glad that Taika is so cool in this game. Because actually, initially when I routed the game, I didn't know that Taika was good. A lot of message boards and things like that. Not a lot of content exists for the game, being that it is indie developers. But I highly suggest you check it out. It's a phenomenal game. But there's not tons of great resources like there would be for other AAA titles or more mainstream game releases. Things like GameFAQs and stuff like that don't really exist. So I was basically working off of like people's personal opinions on message boards and Snowcastle answering a few of my questions anytime I asked. Now I ask them everything. I bug them so much, those poor guys. I'm always like, hey, what's this do? And I feel like they could be like, dude, read the tutorial. But they don't. They're too nice. But I used to have to go through message boards and see what like people's preferences are and stuff like that and take their word for it. And a lot of people didn't use Taika. They used one of the later characters we get named Pat. And then one thing led to another. I realized Pat is actually not that great. Not a huge fan. And we started using Taika and realized that he can actually get super broken. And now he carries his run. So shouts to Taika. This area we're in right here, the Burning Desert, actually has like its own unique puzzle to it. So as you can see, the screen's getting brighter and you can hear the sound intensifying of the heat. What happens is if you don't run from shade spot to shade spot in a set amount of time, you're going to suffer heat stroke and you're going to wind up back at the previous safe spot. So you'll see me run in circles, and that's because when you run in this game, you start off at a lower speed and you build momentum for about a half second to a second. And also I can time just what the timer is at based on the amount of rotations I do. So 6 is here. Like I know I'll be able to make every single run from each spot to each spot based on how many circles I do when I get there. It's a little trick I figured out to help me memorize everything. So, and it also keeps you from suffering from that momentum loss, giving you a few extra steps every time. Use the tutorial. I don't ever use the tutorial in anything. It's crazy. I guess we're probably fine, to be honest. But here we are. We're doing well. We're almost an hour into the run, and we're only a minute and some change behind, which is super great. Usually I reset off of bad early RNG, but since Varlic drew the second fight 20 minutes into the game, we haven't really wavered much. That's nice. Yeah, you know us Americans, we don't know how to read. We were schooled in America. How dare you be so condescending? Read. The audacity. So now Eamon actually has access to this spell, or to water, which is really good. It's super strong. So we're going to have him use water spuds, and Olia use her electro. And now, once he gets about to half HP, he's going to start charging up, and we need to kill him before he unleashes that charge. Usually it's not too difficult, but it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do it this time. So he's got to make sure that if he does kill somebody, that we raise them up so that they don't receive an EXP penalty. Because like I said, EXP in this game, very important. It's not often you die to this. Sometimes you just get unlucky on damage rolls. How dare you? Should have expected this. So one thing that's worth mentioning is you'll notice I already have the fire Amory. And that's because Snowcastle actually told me, when I first started running the game, I asked them if they had any ideas or tips that they could save time. And one of the tips they gave me was that you can actually carry the red Amory charge all the way from the previous, where is it? Right here. Now when Taika's tail starts wagging crazy, that's how you know that you're on where you need to be digging. But they gave me that tip, and it actually saves like 10 minutes, because in the desert we don't actually have to run and get the red charge. We already have it on us. So right there, what I just did, I don't usually do that, but you guys did donate for Princess Ive, which even my viewers, I'm sure, are going to be excited to see, because they don't ever see it. The Princess Ive skin we will be using now. It doesn't change anything besides her aesthetic, but it's a good one. She looks really good in it. So shouts to you guys. Thank you for making that possible. I do appreciate it. Oh, you know what? We're going to go get Taika's Quake first. We might as well do that now. Yeah. So now that we do have Taika as a character is like a blue mage by nature. What he does is he learns abilities from enemies, and then he can use those abilities himself. Now we're gonna get an ability called Quake here, and we're also gonna fight the first Barnacle. It's really, really imperative that you get Quake. Like I would reset a run if I forgot to get Quake, which I occasionally do. Right here we're gonna. Oh no! It's okay. We'll just run away. Don't want to waste a turn. There you go. Cool. So right here, we actually need to gather up every single enemy we can for the huge EXP bonus. We're only getting a few right there. We need a couple more. We'll take 6. That's whatever. Oh, actually, no, we're not. Because having the 8, even though they don't give a lot of EXP on their own, it's important to take as many of these bad boys. Oh, they're not even noticing me. There you go. Perfect. Alright, so we're going to kill the Barnacle first. He's called a Shackle. He's pretty weak. There he is. Barnacles have some unique qualities about them. Anytime that you attack them, they will, or physically attack them, they'll put a debuff on you that makes you weaker to whatever element that Barnacle is. However, this one's super easy to kill, so we don't need to worry about it. But because of the way the multiplier works, he gives a ton of EXP by himself, so all the others just work as a multiplier that allow us to get a ton of EXP off this fight where we really shouldn't be able to. So now everybody just kills everything really quick. Super free. Yeah, check out the incentives, guys. I think there's some pretty good incentives still remaining. Absolutely check them out. It's for a good cause. Actually, it's funny. It's for a dog-based charity, and the dog is going to carry this run, so... How coincidental. How appropriate. Now, we do obviously take a little bit of a time loss by having to fight more stuff than we really want to. But it's not really a huge time loss when you see how much EXP you get as opposed to how much EXP you'd get out of other things that you would have to fight. That was dumb. Oh no, I didn't learn Quake. I'm so stupid. It's okay. we can go learn it as soon as this fight's over. We'll just have to do 2 fights. You can save yourself a little bit of time and just do it in the fight you're already in. Can we attack those guys? Yeah, we can. Oh, excellent. Oh well. Alright, so a little bit slow. The run is, we're rolling well. I mean, I've made a couple mistakes, obviously, but no complaints. So these huge crabs are what give you Quake. We'll just take a turn really quick. Okay, cool. We'll just get to Taika's turn, learn Quake, then we'll run away. See, works just as well. No real concern. And just, I mean, if you could do it in the fight you're already in, you might as well, you know. But as you can see, we got over a level. Some people actually leveled twice out of that fight, or were able to cover the distance of 2 levels, basically. And that's huge because this next fight we do is not crazy difficult, but the fight after that is. It is crazy difficult. So as I said, EXP, EXP, EXP. It is the backbone of this game. So now we can go back to the desert and continue on. We took that little detour right there, so that we could get Taika the Quake that he needs. Now we're going to go get the blue Amory, which is on the other side of the desert. Now, if I hadn't brought the red Amory with me, I was going to have to go to the other side and do like a handful of minutes as well getting that. So it really did save a lot of time that you can carry that red Amory over with you. Unfortunately, when you menu, it freezes your global clock. So you can't menu, inspect your talents and stuff like that while you're letting your burn rate reduce. Once you get super hot, your character will slow its movement down to a walk, and that's how you know that you're just a few steps away from croaking. No pun intended. So we'll fight this Amory really fast. Just beat it up. Not a big deal. Cool beans. Now right here, I'm going to get the Amory. I'm going to spec Taika out. So we need Taika to have only magic tiles. And the way that we do that is we give resilience to Nart. And resilience on Nart is very important. And I'll explain why as soon as I finish. We'll give her quick step and armor. Taika needs his magic. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Okay, so back to my point. I apologize. Any defensive tile that you spec and equip in this game, so that would be armor for physical defense and resilience for magical defense. Now they both also give speed stat, like they increase your character's speed. So when you become tankier, you actually become faster. And we'll intentionally make Nart and Ive super fast, and we'll intentionally make Taika very, very slow. And the reason we do that is because we want Nart to be able to get as many stacks of buff off as possible before Taika takes the turn. Because those buffs, they last for 3 turns. So if we can get 5 turns on Nart, by the time Taika takes his turn, he's got those 5 huge stacks, right? And it means that Taika's going to do a lot more damage. Now, the way the damage is checked on Curse, which is what we'll be leaning on towards the end of the game, it works a little bit different. And I'll kind of explain that as we get to it, but basically that's the rule of thumb, is that you want your support characters to be taking as many turns as possible, and you want your DPS characters to just have one big turn, which is really neat, and it took me a while to figure that out and kind of math all of that out and see how that goes. So But here's where you're introduced to Taika's dig. It doesn't actually expect you to go to plump it right away. But we do because we need Quake. It's super important. And we will learn Quake in... oh, actually, we should have already learned it, I believe. No, not quite. Fortunately, all the treasure chests in the game are always going to be in the same spot. Let me double check. Okay, cool. So anytime you dig something up, you can. It's always going to be there again next time you play. We're going to continue forward now. We got to fight a couple more Amory. They're not so bad, though, because Taika now is spec'd into magic, and he can actually do a pretty sizable amount of damage with his spells. Yeah, I'm doing really well on time for the marathon so far. We're probably about 3 minutes behind, just based on, like, mistakes and safeties and stuff like that. And I gave, like, a 40-minute estimate buffer or something like that. Now, anytime you cast a self-buffing spell, for some reason, your target will no longer be locked. Like, it'll change target. So you gotta remember that you gotta make sure that you don't spam. I don't know why it works that way. It's definitely just an accidental coding situation, but it will sometimes screw you up. That you will, man, so there's a weird bug that happens when you charge this receptor, specifically. That you can't immediately activate it again afterwards. I don't know why it does that. But yeah, we're doing well on time, which is pleasing, because the last marathon I did, we were we were well under estimate because I gave a massive estimate, but inside I knew it wasn't great. However, today we should be doing fine. We actually did meet the Hollow Knight incentive, but the way I'm going to do it is just load the Hollow Knight save file that I have, which is faster, and I know that the marathon would like to be a little bit ahead if possible, so we'll do that. So the next boss that we have coming up as soon as we finish this last big puzzle, he's a kind of a crazy guy. It took me a while to figure out just like where and what you can push with him as far as damage is concerned. And you can make it a 2-cycle fight consistently. It used to be 3 cycles. It was really, really slow and drawn out, quite dangerous. But now the next fight is actually quite a bit better. But yeah, the Hollow Knight is an optional boss that you guys donated for, so I really do appreciate that. It's the first time anybody will ever see it in a marathon. We didn't meet it, I believe, for the previous marathon I was in. And it's a sweet fight. It's the hardest boss in the entire game. So we're going to wait for that to go in. Perfect. We're going to grab this one. We're going to grab the yellow right behind us. And we're going to go grab the blue. And while we're in the animation of grabbing the blue, we can actually do it from the safety of the shade. So once we get this, once it goes back in, we'll be ready to rock. Now, if you do suffer heat stroke and die here, it's not a game over or anything like that. You just lose a little bit of time. It sets you back to like the last spot that you touched an object or the last shade spot you were in. So we're going to spec into town. Oh, we don't need to. I already did. I'm going to work to plump it for the free heal. I need to make sure that I change Taika's stance. He can't be in caster stance. He has to be in buffing stance. And then we're going to save, and we're going to start Sharon. Cool beans. Let's do it. Now, Sharon, if you ever saw the trailer for Earthlock back when the Kickstarter campaign did begin, you know, this game was a Kickstarter game. Sharon was like the big bad boss you saw at the end of the trailer. And he looks cool, and his animations are sick, but, you know, in the grand scheme of difficult bosses in the game, he's definitely not in the top 10. So the way that this fight works is you gotta kill him by damaging his head. And the only way to damage his head is to kill his arms first. Now when he gets up from being knocked down, he'll cast like a super strong spell on you that does a ton of damage. And the way that we work around that is by having Taika cast Elemental Absorb, which basically gives you, it'll absorb one free element for you. So we'll cast it, then we'll switch Taika into his damage stance, and we'll be ready to rock. Just gonna make sure that everybody has that, otherwise they'll die. Cool. We need to make sure Nart rests a turn so that when we do get him into knockdown mode, that he has the ability to haste somebody. Alright, excellent. So that actually ended a turn earlier than I figured it would. Not a big deal. So Taika's going to water bomb. We're just going to push as much damage as possible on this while he's knocked down here. Nice. That was a good decision. So now he's oh, yeah, what's up?
I just wonder if I can come and say some stuff.
Oh, absolutely, man. Feel free.
Fantastic. So, for anyone who's just joined, this is NGA, which is No Glitches Allowed Marathon. We run glitched B categories for a good cause. We're currently benefiting Go Rescue, who helps animals get off the street, get treatment, and find new home. So if that's something you'd like to support, please use the exclamation mark donate to get to the donation page. And like Palma talked about a few moments ago, we also have incentives. We still got a few incentives that need to be met, including a few bid wars and some naming incentives left. You can check those out with exclamation mark incentives. Anyways, back to Ron, mate.
I appreciate you. Okay, cool. So now, once we get him down on his second go around, we'll be able to kill him. Hopefully, Nart doesn't die here. As you can see, Taika does a pretty sizable amount of damage. Please don't attack Nart. Alright, dope. Fine. Oh, amazing. That was a really, really fortunate turn order right there. So now we're just going to haste everybody or just push the damage, and we'll kill him before he gets up a second time. Taika should kill anyways, but just in case. Alright, brilliant. Not a terrible fight. With all the slow things I did getting there, we are in great shape. He gets knocked down, but he does indeed get up again. So here, we're done with the Burning Desert. However, we're going to dip right back in, and we're going to warp to Plummet Island to get the full heal, because we're going to fight another Barnacle, and this Barnacle is a lot different than the last one. The reason that I didn't use bonds in that previous fight is because I'd like to use them here. Although, you know, every time I do it, I wonder more and more if that's really the correct decision. But just to be safe, this next fight, you can never be too safe. This Barnacle rips you to shreds. And actually, in order for it to go ideally, you do have to get a little bit lucky. You want the Barnacle to challenge, which is basically a dead turn at one point. And we'll see if we get a Barnacle's challenge out of him. We'll do resilience. We'll do resilience as well. Make sure everybody's in the correct stance. Yeah, I think that's what we want to do here. Alrighty. Excellent. So we got turns in a pretty good order. Yeah, I think we'll do it like this. Alright, so that's a good amount of damage. He'll usually always open turn 1 Firestorm. As you can see, it does a crap ton of damage. But we just... Oh, a challenge. Excellent. So challenge, just he adds that debuff on somebody, which is fine. We're not actually too afraid of that. I treat it basically as a dead turn. Okay, amazing. So Taika should be able to do a ton of damage here. And just to be safe. Actually, he's dead regardless. Excellent. That's about as great as that fight can go, to be honest. So we're doing actually better than average with our EXP. Imagine, you know, this game has incredible load times. It's actually, the load times on this, I'm playing on the PS4 Pro. The load times on this are actually so good that I don't even think that PC would really save much. Because there's not, you know, there's not loads to save time on. There's a few that take like a couple seconds that maybe you would shave, but I think that maybe the PC would save maybe a minute in the total 3 hours. That's just ballparking, I don't know, but that's how fast the loads are on the PS4 Pro that I just don't know if it would even, you know, it's not like most normal speedruns where you lose or save a bunch of time by having like a really, really good system run it. We're going to warp to Plumpet. We're actually going to do a short little grind here. We just need to get to level 10, and then we're going to go fight a huge boss. And then we're going to fight another boss right after. But we got to do this little mushroom grind you're going to see me do here in order to get people the talents they need. And we need bond, extra bond levels. Now the way that you get bond in this game is actually not from EXP. The way that you level up bond is from number of enemies. So we're going to fight a specific number of enemies. We're going to fight 16, and that's going to give Bond and Nart their second level of bond, which allows them to basically use 2 abilities when they're in their special, depending on the cost of the ability, of course, but that's basically the rule of thumb for that one. Cool. So we're going to do this fight, we're going to do the next one, we're going to warp back, and then do those same 2 fights again, and then at the end of those, because of where we are EXP-wise, we're going to be able to move on to Mushy. Because the Barnacle went so well, we're actually quite ahead. Oh, bummer. I need all 4 of these, actually, so we're going to have to run away from this. There we go. That's better. Yeah, I am using an SSD as well in my PS4 Pro. The speedrunners system, that's for sure. I like the PS4 though. I choose to run a lot of games on it because up until recently I had a really crummy laptop, and that was what I did all my streaming, my games, all that kind of stuff on. And I didn't really have the system to run good PC games or any game really. So if it was available on the PlayStation, I would prefer to do that. Alrighty. I wonder what our EXP is at. We're actually a little bit ahead. So let's see. Oh no, okay, so we still need the bond. We're gonna warp. And we're gonna warp back. Warping, see, like that's like the longest load you'll see in the game right there. It's what, a second and a half. And now we're, you'll notice that we're in melee stance with Eamon and Ive. And the reason for that is Ive actually has a healing ability called First Aid that she only has access to in this stance. And so with her and Nart both providing a little bit of utility and support, we'll be, you know, you'll see her spend the majority of the rest of the game in that stance. Now, one thing that's worth mentioning is that anything that's AoE magic in this game, so if I do 10,000 damage and there's 8 enemies on the screen, that 10,000 damage is going to be split evenly amongst those 8 enemies. It's important because it feeds into the fact that like it's more important to get enemies off the screen than it is to like spread your damage out. So by killing 2 enemies, it means that the remaining enemies are then going to get a bigger share of that split. So if I can help it, I will. I'll choose to just kill enemies outright to force more damage onto the enemies that remain. He only needs 3 stacks here to be able to do 800 something. Or, oh no, he only needed 2 actually, so that was a wasted animation. Cool, cool. Ooh, Nart's still not leveled. He must have died at some point. Are their bond leveled? Yeah, okay, we'll be alright. We'll continue. He died in, what fight did he die? Oh, in Gob King. That's right, that's right. So now we're gonna go fight Mushy. Mushy is a no-joke fight. Mushy is, his actual name is Mushriga. He's basically a massive one of these mushrooms. And he will mess you up. Oh wow, I didn't do it fast enough, I guess. He'll mess you up. You're not really supposed to fight him this early on, but when we get away with it, we get a ton of EXP. Basically, as much as you would get from a barnacle. And it makes the boss fight that happens immediately after a lot better. So right now we're going to spec our talents. Okay. Oops. Wait, who has she does. We're going to give him might. We're going to give her resilience. We're going to give Taika. This is where we give him Earth Master. We get Curse, which is super, super good. We're gonna make sure that Nart is in that stance. Yeah, everybody's doing what they should be. So hopefully this fight goes super well. Yeah, you know what? I actually need Ive to switch, or not Ive, Eamon rather. Oh no! Well, that's not good. It's a good thing we saved because we're actually going to have to punch Nart. Oh, and we got the stun on him. That's so unlucky. Oh, and he got unstunned. Okay. Alright, I think I'm going to choose to do this first. Tiptoeing in my Jordans, indeed. So the thing we want the least is Taika to be confused. That's when things get really out of hand. But we can actually wake our teammates up by punching them. So you do have a small chance, though, however, of accidentally stunning them, like you saw me done twice now. Ooh, this fight's not looking great. We'll see how it goes. As long as Taika stays up, that's the most important part of this fight. Taika has no turn, so we'll heal Nart. Oof, it's a lot of enemies. Oh, yikes. Eamon took a lot of poison damage there. Alright, we should be fine so long as Taika lives through this next turn. Okay, so poison damage is going to kill. Nart. Alrighty, so we should be fine here now. Oh no, Taika's confused. Yikes, that is pretty bad. He might actually kill his own teammates. Well, that's a setback. We're just gonna have to reload and do this fight over. Like I said, worst thing that can happen. Taika, being as strong as he is, if he gets poisoned or confused, it is not a good look. So that happens occasionally. We got really unlucky right off the bat, so that's why we save right beforehand. No big deal. Do the talents again. We're gonna do resilience. Yeah, yeah, exactly. As soon as you see Taika get confused, it's over. That fight is doomed. But we got plenty of time in our estimate for reasons exactly like that one, so nobody fret. It's just going to make the victory that much sweeter when it does happen. Yeah, no, if Taika gets a hold of his own teammates, it's not great. It's bad. It's really bad. So this is a better start at least, and we actually have fire spuds as well. That's quite favorable. So we're gonna fire trap. As long as Mushy doesn't take a turn. Oh, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. He missed confused twice, so that's super ideal. So what we're going to do here is open up with this. As you can see, we're already pushing way more damage. That's kind of the luxury of when things go correctly. Nobody's confused yet. Yeah, Wired too. Yeah, there's a reason Thousand Arms will never see. Well, there's a ton of reasons Thousand Arms will never see a marathon. Alright, brilliant. So this should be it. We're just going to use Taika's Bond. And that's the fight. So as you can see, pretty massive difference in how those fights can go. Just based off of simple RNG and turn orders and a few different variables. But we're going to run back to the save stone. We're going to save. We're going to get healthy. We're going to go pick up a couple of magic tiles out of some chests. And then we're going to go start Adarin, who's the next boss. Fortunately, everybody can stay mostly in the Sandstone. I think we're going to change Aemon's. Because it helps for him to be able to gouge Adarin, which is an ability that he has that causes a bleed DOT. And it does a lot of damage based on physical attack. So given that we've got nothing but might tiles on Aemon right now, that bleed actually does a pretty significant amount of damage. It contributes to what Taika is contributing as well, so that's always nice. But I'm sure that you saw the immense amount of EXP that we gained from defeating Mushriga. It got us a lot. Now that is something that I worked into the route. We're going to take this fight right here. Because as soon as I interact with this chest, they're going to stand on top of me, and I don't want to take any damage, otherwise we got to warp again. There we go. Now, as soon as you interact with something, it will reset your flee, so you won't be not getting chased. So it's important to kind of create some distance for yourself, which is what we did there. And it's a little bit of a slow process, but you want to make sure that you don't take damage. Those guys especially can do a sneaky amount of damage. Also, their turns take a good long while. And that chest just gives agility. We don't need it. We needed the magic tile that we got, which was the chest that we opened. Now, I pick up the exact amount of magic tiles that I need in the run. We use every single one of them, and it's the very less. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room as far as that's concerned. Give her armor. He needs magic. We have Quake. Okay, cool. He needs resilience. Does Aemon have Gouge? Yep. Okay. Cool beans. Now we're gonna move into Adarin. Now Adarin used to be a super difficult fight, and I routed in Mushy, and how difficult and risky that fight is, because this fight is so bad that I needed the EXP from that other one to make this one not so bad. But as of I came up with a couple new strats that I'm trying, and the one that we worked on yesterday worked really well. So hopefully we can see that happen again. Unfortunately, our turn order right now is kind of gross. Thankfully, they're not doing a ton of damage to people who matter. They have a nasty amount of AoE, so naturally you want to get rid of the people in the back first. We'll take the damage right here, actually. So yeah, what happens is Adarin will either AoE. She uses Singled Out a lot, which is an ability that means that she's just going to focus her damage on pretty much one person. And unfortunately, that person right now is Taika. So we're going to have to do everything we can to keep him up with healing items or whatever else. Eventually, she'll switch her targets to somebody else. And there it is. Okay, cool. That gives us a little bit of a reprieve. Nice. Ouch, stuck again. Who's she singling out? Ooh, Taika again. That sucks. But now she's in a spot where we can actually just wreck her with damage. Just make sure that Taika stays up. They're gonna. This will raise him. Just to make sure that in case Taika does kill here, that we don't lose the XP on it. Alright, cool. That was a good decision. Excellent. So that fight went super well. Like back in the day, basically a level and a half lower, 2 talent tiles a piece lower. It used to be something entirely different. Like it was like a 30% chance you made it past that. It was awful. And now we do it every single time. But it takes Mushy being agreeable, and as you guys could tell based on the probably the minute and a half of time we lost dying to him, he's not always a super agreeable chap. Now, because we are so low HP here, we gotta be absolutely positive that we are the ones who initiate the fights. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in this. You'll be stuck in the situation where you're just hoping that they don't punch you, or they don't get a turn first. And we're actually here. We're going to take a fight if we can find a specific type of enemy. Oh, there it is. That little beetle right there. You see, we need these little beetles to teach Taika lightning. And Taika's going first. Excellent. So we can just learn the spell and run away. Now if Taika goes last, we have to run away from that fight because we can't, we'll get killed. At the HP total we're at now, as well as like how much damage these new enemies do, it's a lot. They're a big jump up from the enemies on the other side of the cave. The difficulty curve in this game, I can't understate it enough, is immense. From one boss to the next, you're gonna breeze through a boss and get completely rocked by another, but this is going to be a brief text mashing. I'm going to step away from a second while I mash. If you want to say anything about the marathon, then now would be a great time to do it, my friend. I'll be right back.
Okay then, we can talk a bit about incentives. We got currently upcoming next runs of Super Mario stuff. We got Super Mario Run by Dragolino's next run, but then 2 runs after that we got Mario Tennis Power Tour, which got an upgrade to any percent double and a pound 1 up, which I believe is hitting the ball about 100 times in a minute or something. I'm not really sure, but it sounds interesting anyway. Then we also got, after Mario Tennis, we got... No wait, Dust got moved, never mind. Dust is on 2 days from now, but that got also an incentive called Fuse Percent, which changed the game mode. But otherwise we got also some bid wars. We got Slot Car Rivals, who's a bit later, that's currently got World Champ Car for 20 bucks. Still got 4 other cars that has nothing on them, that's Bunny Buggy, Rocket Car, Mobile and Giraffe Buddy. If you don't want none of those win, you have to do a donation for that. Also we got character selection for Jet Set Radio Future and category for Darkest Dungeon if you want to play Brigand, Flesh or Crew. Then we also got the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate in-game tag, who's currently leading is Leah on $25. So if you don't want it to be named Leah, you need to donate more than 25. Anyways, that's pretty much all the incentives we got left. There's still a few things that needs to be met. Back to you, Palmer.
Hey, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, back in the day, 6 months ago. Yeah, this game is a, fortunately, I guess I haven't mentioned this yet, this game is actually going to be featured at RPG Limit Break this year, and I know myself as well as the developers are super stoked about that. It was my, like, I worked on it a lot with the intention of hopefully it would have a chance to make it into Limit Break, so we will be doing this game there later on in the year in May, which is a huge privilege. But yeah, 6 months ago, I pretty much started running the game. I started routing it. It took about 3 weeks of testing and routing. Like, it was a hard game to route, even with how quick it is. Quick it is now, at least. And the way that I initially started routing it with a general idea has changed a lot. There's been a ton of different strat changes slowly in different places throughout ever since. And my first run was 7 hours. My second one was like 4.5, and then from there we grinded down just, you know, chunks of minutes at a time. And now it's actually down to a spot that's pretty competitive, and I have to you know, worry about resetting and things like that. So it's crazy to see how far this game has come. We've shaved almost 4 hours off of it. Now it's down to about 3 hours and 10 minutes. Pretty crazy. I'm super proud of it. I love this game. It's tons of fun to run. It's chill when it needs to be, but the fights are super fast paced, very chess match. You got to make, you know, a couple of good decisions with like your next 2 or 3 turns in mind, and I really like that reactionary style of gameplay, and they did a great job with that, especially in the combat in this game. Also, it's really pretty. The music is great, so it's not a bad experience to just sit around, chill, and enjoy. And if you're going to play it casually, even more so. Lends itself to that even more in that respect. Oops. So this is actually my least favorite dungeon in the whole game. Not because it's like poorly done or whatever, or it's ugly, or the music sucks. In fact, I think this is probably my favorite song in the whole game. But I dislike it because the puzzle's not bad. The enemies that are here are some of the worst enemies. They're so annoying. They're quick. A lot of the corridors are really tight, so you have to pretty much initiate every fight and then run away from it. Sometimes you can squeeze past enemies. In this place, I wouldn't suggest doing that. And the puzzle is you have to turn these knobs in order to raise and lower the water levels. And there's lots of chests and things like that, and little side passages you can take to get a lot of, you know, hidden items and what have you that require you to really play around with the water levels. Now, we're not going to pick up a single thing while we're in here. We're just going to breeze right through it as fast as we can. Because the enemies here, they're not worth fighting. They are really, really hard to fight, as well as we're at a low HP because we haven't healed yet, but we don't need to, hopefully. And, yeah, I just don't want to deal with them. I actually like the theme. Wouldn't be an RPG without a good old sewer scene, you know. A lot of the games I grew up loving, especially Parasite Eve, are no stranger to sewer scenes. So as you can see, you lower the water levels, different passages become available to you. And they actually locked a bunch of really neat items, a couple of different recipes and things like that. In little areas, there's a lot to this dungeon, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Which is a shame considering it's the one we do the least of. But there are 2 grind sections that are coming up. I say grind, but they're not as monotonous as like a grind as you would imagine. They're like these tournaments that you compete in, and you can get a lot of EXP. And there's a specific way that we do them to maximize our EXP when and to do them quickly. But you're gonna see a lot of these enemies right here featured in those grinds. So right here, this guy is RNG. This little yep. Okay, we didn't get it. So basically, you just have to take this fight, run away, hope that you can get a good cycle on this steam. Okay, we're not a good one. So what I'm gonna do now is actually bait these guys out so I can run past them. Sometimes you get lucky and you get it on the first try. Sometimes you gotta sit there a while. Like right there was a good steam. As soon as we run away from a fight, sometimes the steam will immediately go down. Oh, there we go. And we got it. Excellent. Now, I don't know if that's intended. I think you're actually supposed to raise the water level or something. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's way slower. Because you're supposed to hit that to lower the water level again. And we skipped that. So, neat little trick. It is a little inconsistent. Sometimes we do it 5, 6 times. Sometimes we get it right away. But no worries. We're moving along. And we're doing all right. Now the 2 grind sections, the first one is a tournament that's in Zaber. We'll do 2 cycles of that. You get we'll basically get 2 levels off of that, and then we'll go into Suvia and we'll get 2 levels off of that by doing 3 there. Now the grind is very, very important, but Snowcastle, knowing that the difficulty level and the difficulty curve is so high because of how low the max level is in the game, they gave you this ability to be able to grind EXP really effectively by just repeating and doing these tournaments. As well as you get some decent tiles from them if you complete them in gold, which is what we'll be doing because that's what gives the most EXP. Now this one I always suck at. Oh, no. Yeah. We gotta wait for the cycle where the first one ends first. That was it. Okay. There we go. Oh, you know what? White Knight Chronicles. That's another game I speedrun. Both of those, the White Knight Chronicles 1 and 2, have a sewer section. So Parasite Eve. Oh, Beyond the Beyond, another game I run. Man, I'm trying to think of all the RPGs I play that have sewer sections in them, and it's almost every single one of the ones I run. It's crazy. Ni no Kuni as well. Huh. There might not be a game I run that doesn't. Classic RPGs, right? But here we are finally done with this area, and because you guys did donate, like you just heard about all the great incentives, because you did donate to fulfill all the Earthlock incentives that were available, we're going to be picking up a Frog Boy Nart skin in this next little area that we're in, which is cool. I've actually never done a run where I had the Princess Ive and the Nart frog skin. It's actually called Shaman Nart. Ni no Kuni 1 and 2, yeah, you're right. And DS. But it looks cool. Frog Boy. I actually, so for Limit Break, I'm having an amazingly talented artist sew me a Frog Boy hat, so I'll be sporting one of those at the event. They're dope. They're cozy. It's all for the memes. But yeah, so there's all these different little boxes you see here. Most of them are filled with nothing or really, standard items. However, one of them is filled with Nart's frog hat. And that's the one we're going to be picking up. It actually might be that chest right there. It's okay. We'll see. Wooden Lampshade, my boy. How are you? Thank you so much for showing up, my dude, and keeping that frog strong. I think it might be this one. We're going to open them both. So it is this one, okay. That's what I thought. So this one will give us the frog Nart, the shaman Nart. I'm going to equip it now before I forget. There we go. So now, thank you guys. We have fulfilled both of those. And now we're rocking Princess Ive and Shaman Nart. Both of them looking way better than they usually do. Now, obviously, you dig up Ives, and you have to get Narts out of that box, so it's not, it's slower. So we don't do it in usual runs. Right here, you can actually get a clip where you can clip through this and back onto the ground without having to. Nice, we got it first try. Without having to wait for the lift to take you all the way to the other side and then come all the way down. We can actually just force ourselves off of that lift unintentionally. It's weird how it works. It's like that lift has a hitbox on it, and it can just push you. I mean, if you don't get it, it's like, if you don't get it first try, it's only like a couple seconds lost. And if you don't get it second try, it's actually slower than if you would have just rode the lift. So we really just do it for fun and style more than anything. But now Olia has uncovered, as I mentioned earlier, one of the final pieces of the ancient machine so that they can now piece together this robot that is going to translate. A clip? That sounds like a glitch. You know, as I said that, I was thinking about it. And I was like, no, it's not a glitch. It's not intended for sure. But I wouldn't consider it a glitch. And for the sake of this marathon, we're going to say it's not. It's not impactful, that's for sure, so whatever your stance, just remember that it doesn't change anything. And thank you so much, Lampshade. I appreciate it, man. All you guys, really, that are watching Earthlock at this hour. I can't thank you enough. It's a pleasure to be able to play this game in marathons, and especially to have you guys watching. And if you are interested in playing this game, if it looks like something you might be into, the game is, like I mentioned, on sale. I mean, on all kinds of different consoles and systems, pretty much every modern system. And it's also on sale all the time. It's $30 normally, but you can get it for like less than $15 on Steam sales, on all kinds of stuff. Yeah, we just fell. We fell off the box. That's all. So definitely keep a lookout on sales. They happen like every other day, it seems, all the time. You can get this game for $15, which is an absolute steal. I've played a lot of worse games that cost me a lot more. Ni no Kuni 2. And I don't regret my purchase whatsoever. I promise that you won't either. But now we're gonna go do the Zaber grind before we go in, because once we enter the Zaber grind, we actually can't swap talents, and that'll be the same at the Suvia tournament as well. We're going to spec our talents right quick. We need might always on him. We need magic always on him. Actually, what do we have? Yeah. Nart should get. I guess it doesn't really matter what Nart gets. We may need to make sure both of those guys are in the correct stance, and then we're gonna go to Zaber. We're gonna save, and we're gonna start this tournament. Now, for the first round, I'm going to have everybody in the same party formation that they are currently, but it's very, very, very important that you make Taika and Eamon bond buddies before you start the second one, and they'll remain like that for the remainder of the game. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but Olia's talent in the overworld is that she can whistle and attract attention, and when you do so, it's way easier to group up enemies and gather up groups. And we're going to use that to make sure that we take every single round of this tournament. We fight as many enemies as possible in each one of those rounds. As you can see, Taika's already starting to heat up. Your boy is fire, doing the most. Now I usually like to use Bond in this fight, with Eamon. We can't use it with Taika. We absolutely need Taika's for the fourth round, but didn't look like we were quite there. So in this fight, we're going to kill these guys first, the Yumpkins. They can cast Buffer, which is a magic and physical defense. And obviously, when we're relying on Taika to do a lot of our damage, it's not doing us any favors. So we'll probably get one more buffer off. That's fine. And one of the reasons that Quake is so good is because of these exact moments. You'll notice that Quake has a small chance to stun people as well. So it's really handy to have it stun people and skip a few turns. It makes this, grind obviously a much faster process when you're not having to sit through as many enemy animations. On top of that, we also get the Earth Mastery talent right off the bat from the tutorial when we craft the talents. And so organically we obtain the talent to have 30% increased earth damage. So because of that, Quake is, anytime we're not using Curse, which we'll use for a lot of the final bosses in the game, we're going to be using Quake. There is one caveat to that. We will be using Lightning a little bit later on, but that's only for a very specific couple of fights, and it doesn't even really matter that much. Oops. We might as well get rid of him. Now those little things you hear right there, those little, they're called Chirbies. And they suck. So I try to kill them first, but I accidentally misclicked. And we need Taika to use his bond in the fight after this one, because it's a really struggle of a fight that they inflict poison and stuff like that. But we can actually end it in a single turn, so long as Taika has his bond available. So if you're wondering why isn't he using it, that's why. Okay, they're all gonna die now. Cool, cool. So Taika's going to have 4. He only needs 4 to do enough damage to kill. So we're going to skip Nart's next turn to save ourselves an animation. And boom, there we go. So this is the fight. All these plants, they're weak to fire. So as long as Taika has bond, we'll kill him with a single turn. Okay, we're going to pick up that chest for Sweet Dreams for the final fight here. Boom. It really is that easy. So for this final fight, it's these two guys, and they have the highest HP for sure. However, what is really, really nice is that you can Sweet Dreams them, which is put them to sleep. And so long as you use Sweet Dreams, they're going to be asleep, and you can just. Now, anything that has an elemental affinity to it, you can actually continue to use. So spells and things like that. Now, Aemon is not going to be able to take a turn. But what's important is that you can get an EXP bonus from not taking any damage in a fight. So that's what we're going for here. We keep them asleep so that we can just kill them with Taika when it's his turn. And that way we don't take any damage from the fight. And we get a little bit more EXP right there. So when you finish with gold, which means you fought every single round with every enemy that was available, which is the hardest way to do it, obviously, you get more EXP. And that is what that is our goal. We need Bonds of Battle. We need Energize as well. So we'll give him double turn. Give him Energized. Nart can actually get cool, we're ready to rock. We're gonna do that one more time. We're gonna do that one more time, and then we're gonna be rocking. And we'll move on to a couple things, and then we'll do the Subia grind soon after. But like I said, EXP is everything in this game, and this is the fastest way to deal with EXP, so it's unavoidable grinding section, but oh no! I made a major mistake. There we go. So we're gonna lose 500 EXP from this, but that's okay. It's more important to have the bond. It's a good thing I caught that there, otherwise it could have been ugly. We need to have we need to have the bond at a very specific spot, because the final boss in the game, as well as a few others, give nasty DOTs that by having your party in this formation, the key members will be immune to it. So if you make this mistake now, it's gonna come back to bite you really early, and then again really late. You want to make sure that you don't accidentally attack the character that's stunned, because they're stunned, they're losing their turns anyways. We can actually just run through this. Cool, cool. So we're going to lose a small amount of EXP because we did have to quote-unquote run from a fight. That's what the game thinks happened. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but it shouldn't cost us too much. By the time the late game rolls around, it probably won't make much of a difference. We got... Oh, dang, that's a lot of stuns. Nice. Always good to see those stuns come out. Yeah, thank you, Piku. I appreciate it. I apologize if my volume was low. I speak quietly, and my mic is... You know, I don't eat my mic. So I have to, like, then balance the game out to make up for that. And it sometimes just results in an overall quieter stream, so I apologize. But I appreciate you helping me out there, Piku. What is unfortunate, though, is because I forgot to do that bond so early, we're actually not going to have the bond that we need to kill this next encounter super quickly. It's gonna make that take a little bit longer, unfortunately. Now we should have it. We're at half now, and we'll probably be fine. Cool, cool. Again, we need to get rid of the Chirbies first. They're actually resistant to Quake, a little bit more so than the others. So it's just faster to get rid of them by having the two people who do damage aside from Taika to kill them. And then getting rid of them obviously means that... Oh, come on. It means that AoE damage is split amongst fewer targets, and what have you, so... We're ripping now. But as you can see, misses, glances, things like that, just poor luck can impact you a lot. Because had we not missed those two, it means that 2 more targets would have been dead, which means that we probably would have had the damage to kill everything at this point already. So sometimes real simple stuff like that can lose you or save you time, just depending on what your accuracy is like. Cool beans. So now we're going to go and fight the plants. We one-shot them just like we did last time. Oh shoot! No, we don't. It turns out we don't have the game ready to do so. Oh yikes! As long as Nart gets a turn, we should be fine here. Oh, okay. So now Taiga has his turn, so we're fine. Just we're gonna take a couple extra turns. No big deal. I was just worried about dying. We'd have to do it all over again, but we are good to go, fam. As you can see, how slow this fight can be when you don't have the means to get rid of it super quickly. And the reason we didn't have that bond is because, again, like I said, I forgot to switch their bonds around, and that's what happens. So you can make some pretty big but very simple mistakes that can cost you a ton. But now we just go to buffing. Oops. Cool. So lost a little bit of time there, but that's understandable. Plenty of opportunities to make some of that time back. But what's important is that we finish that in the middle of being level. Being in the middle of 13, because by the time we finish the next one, we'll be in the middle of 16 and 17, and we have a couple of things in between that grind and the one we do here in a little bit. So, ugh. Yep. All right, so here we're going to attempt to go to the Suvia tournament, right after we've defeated. In order to compete in the Suvia tournament, story-wise, you have to have won the certificate of championship, basically from the Zaber grind, from the Zaber tournament. But when we come here to compete, we actually run into a few things, and that would be Ichibo and Bryn. Now, Ichibo and Bryn are the two people, or Ichibo is at least. He works for the Suvia flight military, and Bryn is a prisoner that he's managed to take under his control and use as his henchman, essentially. So he's basically being a double crosser. He's corrupt, Ichibo is. And it turns out that he's the one who hired Adarin and the bandits. He's the one who is after the ancient relic that Eamon has in his possession now. And here is where he comes and basically reveals his true colors. Now this fight is unwinnable, so what we're going to do is just lose it as fast as possible. There you go. As you can see, Devastate reduces you all to 2 HP max. So it's not even like you get dropped down and you can heal yourself. No, you have 2 HP as your maximum amount of HP. And then he follows it up with an immediate attack, so it kills you. It's a pretty neat mechanic. We'll fight Ichibo and Bryn later on, and they'll reuse that mechanic. Now, however, we'll have done some story-required stuff in the meantime in order to be able to prevent that from doing what it just did to us. So 3. Okay, cool. That's actually a pretty good amount. However, here now we will we'll gain 1 member. Why is she over here? You know, she's always in random spots when you come talk to her, and I swear every single spot is just. Sometimes she can be right next to the door. Why isn't she just always right next to the door, doing me a solid? But it is what it is. No big deal. So here is the last machine part that we just obtained when we came and did this section where we got Shaman Narts, and we took the last machine part and put the machine together and created this robot called Pat. Well, Ichibo goes. Ichibo goes to find that machine part and it's not there anymore. So now they're upset. They're looking for it. Well, it's too late. We've already got it. So now they're basically declaring war on the Suvian. On Suvia, essentially. Yeah, she's got her own life. Yeah, she moseys about this room all the time, and it's never in great spots. So now that we have Pat, he is the fastest moving character in the game. This is the only thing we'll use him for is movement. We also steal some of the talents that he has equipped. But otherwise, that's all he's for. He has like his own neat character uniqueness that a lot of people seem to really like. However, for the speedrun, especially since he comes in at level 10, it's not really lucrative for us. So right here we're going to strip Pat of all his good talents and give them to the people who can benefit the most. So one might. You know, actually having cloak would not hurt. Did I use one that's not? Okay, cool. That's probably fine. So now we actually we have to do a few fights. They're really quick. We'll actually have a few Suvian military members with us. They suck. They solely exist, honestly. They solely exist to just slow down by taking turns. Taika is so strong that it's like, you know, this is a joke. As you can see, Taika's already starting to become an absolute monster. You haven't really seen me utilize Curse yet, which is an ability. So before I explain Curse, it's important to know that, like most RPGs, or like a lot of RPGs, damage in this game caps out from a single source at 9999. However, there is a little loophole to that. So the way that it works is Curse is an ability that Taika uses. It costs 4 Amory, but it puts 4 different DOTs on enemies. Now, each one of those DOTs is its own singular source of damage. So it can actually, you know, each DOT that procs has its own 9999 cap, 9999 cap, whatever, 10,000 basically. Which means that if all 4 of those are hitting for max damage, you're looking at 40,000 damage basically, as opposed to the 10,000 you would look at otherwise. And because of that, we're able to just destroy a lot of stuff. Pretty much as soon as I like to say, give it as an example in this shape. 40% of the game is we're about 40% of the game once we make it past the Suvia grind. Once we make it past, and then we finish the remaining 60% like within less than an hour. So it's you murder through what's left in the game. The lion's share, the majority of the game, because of how strong you are. We're actually gonna have to use a healing elixir here. Yeah, that's probably wisest. We don't want anybody to die because their bonds will get set back a little bit, and it's important for especially Taika and Eamon to have bonds in this next fight. Okay, excellent. And we want Nart in his other stance so that he can haste Eamon as soon as possible, because Eamon in this fight will be able to like pretty much one-shot everybody. Oh wow, we gotta turn with him first. Nice. So that's he doesn't even have bond. Oh well, it's okay. Cool. So we didn't get the fast fight here. If we get lucky enough to have people attack Taika currently has an ability equipped that gains him bond charge when he's attacked, when he receives damage. Unfortunately, we weren't lucky enough to get it. So what we're going to do, it just takes a little bit longer to finish this fight, but we're going to end it on this turn now. Sometimes you can finish that fight a little bit faster. You can end it with Eamon's first turn if he goes into the fight buffed. You gotta get a little lucky. We didn't. That's okay. We're actually still gonna probably save time in this next split anyways, so we're moving pretty well. So now we have to fight Adarin again, but she's a super pushover right now. And the reason for that is simple. Taika and Curse are absolutely bonkers out of control. And she's just not, because of the Zaber grind, we're at a pretty adequate level to deal with her. And then the OP-ness of Curse kind of just pushes us over the edge there a little bit. And Taika, oh man, this is a really good turn order as well. Another reason why I have the party in this makeup is because Nart and Ive, when bonded together, that adds a 25% chance. Oh my goodness, look at that. It adds a 25% chance that when you heal somebody with first aid, oh nice. When you heal somebody with first aid, it'll give you, it'll land haste on them as well. So that's going to be super important. Ive becomes a really, really powerful utility character by being able to heal and occasionally proc haste on people at the same time. So a little bit later in the game, you're going to see me cast heal on people who don't need it. They're full HP, and that's just because I'm trying to get that haste to proc. And you saw just how big Curse was right there, and that's really nothing compared to like what it's capable of. And one thing that's important to mention, though, especially with the way that Cursed works as a mechanic, is that Oh, you know, I forgot to heal on Nart. Let me do that real quick. Oh, I'm sorry, not haste, but curses as a mechanic. So whenever you put curse on an enemy, they don't take damage from that curse until their turn, right? Well, the reason that's so important is because, hold on 1 second. what a cliffhanger. The reason that's so important is because you can actually gain benefit from, like, so say Taika casts curse on an enemy and he has no magic buff stacks on him. Well, say Nart gets 3 turns before that enemy takes its turn to get hit by that DOT. Well, if he buffs you 3 times, once that enemy takes its turn, that's when it then checks for the magic stat of the person who put that DOT on him. So you can cast it, stack a ton of buffs, and then by the time that enemy is ready to take its turn and receive that damage, it'll then check of what Taika has at that moment, as far as like what his buff is at, which is super good because you can curse early, get a bunch of stacks on him, or like increase your stacks, you know what I mean? So I could curse with 3 stacks on, and by the time the enemy takes its turn, I have 5 or 6 stacks. It's going to increase the damage by a considerable amount. And curse actually, it works twice. So curse lasts, all 4 of those DOTs last for 2 of the enemy's turns, which helps increase its strength immensely, because by the time that second turn comes around, you're guaranteed to have a few more magic bonus stacks than you did when you casted it. And that's a super interesting but also very important part of exactly like the fine-tuning that went into like routing, especially with the curse strategies and all that kind of stuff. It pretty much means that Nart lives in okay, cool. It means that Nart lives in mage or in buff stance, essentially. We almost never use him to heal. We choose to use Ive. First aid does like a percentage of your health, and then if we really need a heal, we'll swap to Nart and use his bond to heal people. Otherwise, we want him buffing as often as possible. So right here, before I start, we have access to new ammo, which is going to do more damage. And I need to change that around. Oops. Oh my goodness. Is that all I have access to right now? Oh, there it is. Okay, I screwed that up. There we go. Oops. So one thing that's interesting is in this fight, right? In this fight, you're supposed, or in this whole section, you're supposed to, like in Zaber, you're relegated to using Spud ammunition, which is like the basic tier of ammunition. In this fight, you're only allowed to use Plus, which is like the next tier of ammunition. However, Snowcastle was worried that you would go into it without enough of that ammunition, so what they decided to do was just give some to you. A limited amount that you can use for, and you lose as soon as the grind is over. You don't get to keep it, so you can't use it to like farm. However, it means that we actually don't have to invest any time in farming up those items ourselves, because the game just gives them to you to use for the grind. And as a result, that means that we don't have to do any gardening from this point forward. We don't touch the garden another time, which is awesome, because you know a lot of where like time slows down is where you're sitting there, you know, raising plants and harvesting them and whatnot, in an effort to, you know, be able to get the ammunition that you're going to need to be able to progress through the game. We're able to skip all of that because we use Taika, who's ammo-less essentially, and for these we're given the ammo that we need. So this fight, actually, we have to do it a pretty specific way. It's going to look funny, but we're actually going to heal the enemy, because 4 of the enemies are undead. And we want to do damage to them. And we get rid of these guys because they can do, the guys that we're killing right now, they can put slow on you. They can also put zombie on you, which means that when you do heal, it'll actually do damage. Like, you'll take damage from heals just like they do. Kind of annoying. They're annoying creatures. So we're going to get rid of them the best we can. For lightning next. Nice. So we did get 2 stuns off. That's ideal. The way that these enemies work right here is that they become immune to whatever the most recent elemental spell was cast on them. So that's why lightning helps to have here. We can actually alternate between the 3 elemental spells that we utilize, which is fire. Oops, that's going to do no damage. Which is fire, lightning, and quake with earth. Oops. I was trying to skip his animation, but it's okay. Oh my goodness gracious. There we go, that's better. So similar to last time where we had specific fights that we need to use our bond on, same thing with this one. We'll use Nart's bond in that fight that we just did, and we're going to use Eamon's bond in this fight. Because these guys suck. It's in square, huh? So as you can see, he gets rid of almost everything pretty quickly. Which is important because those guys are rough. Really good turn order right there as well. That helps us a lot. This fight is pretty simple. Only 5 enemies. And actually, the Quadragon style enemies, they actually die really quickly, especially to Spuds. We're gonna lightning here because lightning adds a DOT, or at least it has the opportunity to, and especially since since Taika took a turn without Nart being able to buff him, it was worth attempting for a DOT since Quake wasn't going to do a bunch of it. So here we're going to heal ourselves. And then we're going to just continue on as normal. Now I need to get Nart immediately out of healing stance because he needs to start accruing bond again. And bond is so important in this game. Unfortunately, any spell that you cast on somebody other than the character itself, so Nart using magic focus, or